Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on this video. My name is Chris. Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings has finally hit theaters. I think a lot of people are going to be walking out of theater this weekend surprised with how much they ended up loving this movie and how much they're looking forward to see Shang-Chi in the future of the MCU. Not only that, but what implications does that in-credit and post-credit scene have that I think are the best ones we've seen in a long time. So what I'm going to do here for you guys is giving you my full spoiler review on Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings. I'll be diving into some of the Easter eggs you might have missed, along with some other details and things that they're hinting at that could be big implications for the future of the MCU, especially what the end credit and post-credit scene means. But I'm also need your guys' opinions down below. Give me your spoiler review for Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings. Did you end up liking this movie? Were you surprised by it? Or were you someone who was not a fan of this movie? Also would love to hear your thoughts. Alright, so just to quickly reiterate my thoughts on this, I thought the movie was really well done. I thought it was one of the better solo origin stories done in that category of like the first Avenger, the Thor, Iron Man. This one's probably like top 5, maybe top 4. Simu Liu knocked it out of the park as Shang-Chi, being so charismatic and likable, but not only that, his kung fu and fighting style really makes me excited to see a lot more of him in the future of the MCU and how he's going to interact with a lot of other different Avengers. Because probably like a lot of you out there, when you want to go see the movie, you're like, okay, so the guy's a master of kung fu. How does that let you be into the Avengers team and fight some of the big threats they do? And well, we get the answers to how. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, so let's just start off with the way the movie opens up with the origin story of the Mandarin. So this is one of the things that the MCU changed up from the comics, where we find out that the Mandarin has been alive for hundreds of years, thanks to the 10 rings that are no longer rings on your fingers, but instead bracelets. We don't find out how the Mandarin came in possession of them, we just know that once he put them on, started wearing them, and using their powers, which are different from the comics, because in the comics, each ring gave the Mandarin a special ability, one with fire, water, ice, telekinetic abilities. Here they're more just like energy projectiles that can do several things, from shields, whips, even Kamehameha balls. I was like, okay, some Dragon Ball Z here. But more importantly, we find out that whoever possesses the 10 rings also stops aging and becomes immortal. I thought that's an interesting little detail to throw in there, as whoever wears the 10 rings now will start living forever as long as they wear them. Also makes me think that when Eternals comes out, we're probably going to get little hints to the Mandarin somewhere out there, since the Eternals have been living for hundreds to thousands of years. They probably ran into the Mandarin somewhere in there. But through these couple hundreds of years of being the Mandarin, he's just in search of power and this magical village of Tun Lao, where he ends up meeting Shang-Chi's mom. Here's where I was kind of surprised with the direction that they took the Mandarin in, because a lot of his motivations in this movie are built out of love. Yes, he is a power-hungry guy, and he does have a bit of a darker side to him, but it all still stemmed from the love he had to Shang-Chi's mom, and I thought that was a really great way to handle the character. And I guess since we're on the subject of the mom, since she is a bit of a key character, she is a person who came from this magical village that the Mandarin was trying to come into, but they wouldn't allow him access because they knew he was just there for the power of the village and abuse any secrets they have. So both the Mandarin and the mom gave up their abilities, where the mom could do sort of like this air bending as long as she was near the village, and the father giving up his 10 rings where they could just live a normal life. Like, seeing them play Dance Dance Revolution made me go, yo, that's a happy family. But ultimately, the sins of Mandarin's past caught up to him, and the mom was murdered. Eventually, we learn that once the mom dies, the Mandarin goes back to putting on those rings, never wanting to take them off, and start building up his army of the 10 rings again, so that no one ever messes with him or his family. That's where we get a lot of the montages of Shang-Chi growing up and being trained as hard as possible, and his sister shadowing in the background a lot of the same training. Now, finally, in present day, we find out that this does take place after Avengers Endgame, because whenever Shang-Chi and Katie are at the bar with a couple of friends, they talk about the implications of the snap and how half the world can just disappear at any moment. Also, when we get a look at the bedroom of Shang-Chi, we see a couple of movie posters up there, one of The Warriors, and probably my favorite one, Kung Fu Hustle. If you have not seen the movie Kung Fu Hustle, it is a great kung fu movie that is also really hilarious. But after all these years, the Mandarin has decided to go round up all his children, because he's hearing the voice of the mother telling him that she's trapped at her magical village and that her people are holding her hostage, and that he needs to go and rescue her. Through these events, not only did we get probably what was my favorite fight scene in the entire movie, was the bus fight. Just the choreography, camera angles, and how charismatic Simu Liu was in here makes me really pumped to see more Shang-Chi movies, if that's the kind of fight style we're going to be getting. But it also led us to the Golden Daggers Club, which is owned by Shang-Chi's sister. Here's where we get some more cool Easter eggs in the movie, like at one point when they're walking into this Golden Daggers Club and seeing some of the minor fights behind glass walls, we get to see one character soldier that seems to be having similar powers to the people from Iron Man 3 with the extremist formula. I think that was a really random but cool add-on there that they still show those soldiers who were experimented on in Iron Man 3 are still out there. However, that's not the only Easter egg here. If you pause it at the right moment, you can see that this extremist soldier is fighting a Black Widow. You can see on her belt it has the Black Widow emblem. Now, this is probably one of the freed Black Widows from the prequel movie we just saw, where Natasha Romanoff and Yelena went ahead and freed the remaining widows. Technically, this would now be several years later since that happened before Infinity War, and I guess this is just where one of them ended up using her fighting powers to fight here. But the fighter that everybody had their eyes on, and I think a lot of people were disappointed he didn't have more screen time, Abomination. We do see Abomination and Wong himself fighting together in this ring. Now, the Abomination does look slightly different than the way he did in the Incredible Hulk. He looks a lot more comic accurate with growing in some fins on his side, but this is still supposed to be the exact same Abomination. They even had Tim Roth voice him in those scenes, and he is set to be coming back for the She-Hulk series, which I think that was the whole purpose of this, was just to kind of set him up that he's still in the world and that we'll see more of him in She-Hulk. Although in a blink and you miss moment, after Wong and Abomination are done fighting and they're in the locker room, Wong creates a portal where he's walking away with Abomination, and in the background of where they're going definitely looks like a prison that is meant to hold in the Abomination. So it looks like Wong regularly is taking him in and out of his prison to be part of these fights. Abomination does seem a lot more friendly and chummy, like he's okay with this agreement that he can be taken in and out of his cage to fight a little bit, and maybe he gets some money or food on the side. But when you watch the movie again, he's for sure being taken to the prison, most likely the Raft, and I think we'll see him break out of it finally in She-Hulk and probably go after Bruce Banner and Jennifer Walters. Fast forwarding to another major Easter egg and surprise in the movie is the character of Trevor, the actor, is back. Again, most famous from Iron Man 3, where he was branded as the Mandarin and we had a lot of fan backlash as he was the fake Mandarin. I love how Marvel can go ahead and mess up so bad in one movie and then kind of redeem themselves in another years later. Now, other than Iron Man 3, the last time we saw Trevor as the Mandarin was through this little one-shot that Marvel did. Back in the day, early in the MCU, Marvel would do these one-shot little stories where they were short films set in the MCU, some for fun, some to set up other things, and one of those short stories was Trevor in prison, paying for their crimes as Iron Man villains, but he was being abducted by the real Mandarin, and we all assumed he was put to death. Now, that short is on Disney Plus if you want to watch it, but here it's revealed that the Mandarin was going to kill him for using his name in vain, but it was because of his remarkable acting abilities that he let him go and uses him as sort of a gesture for entertainment purposes. I thought that was just some of the most random things in there. And although I got a big laughing kick out of Trevor coming back and all that, this is where the movie kind of dipped a little bit for me, because Trevor also has this magical creature that Awkwafina's character calls a chicken pig, but it's through finding Trevor and this chicken pig that they are then given the correct information to be able to enter this hidden village where their mom is from. Again, I thought there was some funny stuff, was hilarious, but it was just kind of so out of place and random that it was kind of the only low point of the movie for me. When they finally make it to this hidden village, we find out that the voices that the Mandarin has been hearing of the mom are actually an ancient evil dragon that was locked away and has been calling people outside of the village to try and set him free, and one of the latest victims is the Mandarin, thinking that it's his long lost wife. This is where the movie went balls to the wall crazy for me, and I loved every moment of it, just how it kept getting bigger and bigger. And then you throw in the fight scene between Shang-Chi and his father, how he's slowly taking the 10 rings away from him and they're turning gold. This is where I started to see like, oh, they're gonna give him the 10 rings, and that's how he becomes Avengers worthy, because just some kung fu punches ain't gonna cut it. And that's where my mind was going wild at the possibilities you could have with Shang-Chi. He could honestly become a very powerful Avenger, because we saw how good this man is with hand-to-hand combat. You throw in those 10 rings, giving him another layer of power, boy's gonna be unstoppable. But of course, the Mandarin, blinded by his own love and desperation to get his wife back, ends up freeing this gigantic monstrous dragon, dying at the hands of his mistake and passing the rings off to Shang-Chi, heartbreaking stuff, but also just really well done and sets Shang-Chi up to be a great hero. From there, I think the movie either makes or breaks for a lot of people, because while I admit there is a lot of CGI in there, and sometimes when Shang-Chi and his sister are on top of the dragon, it looks a little wonky and their faces are a little off, but it really felt like something pulled out of an anime, and the way he fights off the dragon I thought was all very unique and refreshing for the MCU and something we definitely had not seen before. But of course, now they save the day. Shang-Chi is now the possessor of the 10 rings. He heads back to San Francisco with Katie, bragging about how they saved the village to their friends, only for then Wong to open up a portal where I and my entire audience was gasping because, you know, everybody's been going crazy over these portals open, and we all think Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire are going to be stepping out someday. But it was Wong telling them, hey, you need to come with me and bring those 10 rings. Leading us into our first post-credits scene that I think is the best one we've gotten in a long time, where we see Wong, Shang-Chi, Katie, Captain Marvel, played by Brie Larson, and Mark Ruffalo as human form instead of the Hulk, all analyzing the 10 rings and trying to figure out where they come from. Basically, what's happening in this post-credit scene is they noticed that when the 10 rings were being used by Shang-Chi, they were giving off a signal to someone else. Now, Captain Marvel is there to analyze it because they believe it's alien technology, and who else to better analyze alien technology than the woman who's handling all the alien fights in the MCU. Captain Marvel, though, is oblivious to this and says she has no idea where this comes from and she's never seen anything like it. Bruce Banner is also just as puzzled and doesn't have an idea either. And before they leave off, Bruce Banner welcomes them to the circus, basically to the Avengers, and the post-credit scene ends with a little gag of Shang-Chi, Katie, and Wong going to a karaoke bar. Now, what this all means, couple of things. One, pretty awesome that Captain Marvel was in there, and the main reason she probably is because the director, Destin Daniel Cretton, has actually worked alongside Brie Larson through a lot of his movies, so they just have that relationship. So part of me bets that they just included her in because of the relationship with the director, but no, it's because these 10 rings are hinting to a cosmic level threat that they included her. I'll get to what that cosmic threat is in a sec and who the 10 rings are trying to contact. But also Bruce Banner, like the first time I saw the end credit scene, I was like, oh, it's Bruce Banner, that's awesome. And then I realized, wait, wasn't he stuck as the Hulk in Endgame? How is he human again? It appears that Bruce Banner is now able to go back and forth again from Hulk to human. He's still wearing the sling around his arm, so he is definitely still permanently damaged from using the Tony Stark Infinity Gauntlet. But also, when you go back and watch that post-credit scene, on the other arm of Bruce Banner, he has this sort of big old gigantic silver technology on him with some green fluid. That could be the thing that's helping him stay in human form, and maybe he needs to be wearing that at all times. I don't see the other reason he would have that on his arm, so that could be the thing to trigger him back and forth into the Hulk. But okay, to who they were contacting, in the comics, the 10 rings are alien technology. It's explained that the Mandarin finds them in an alien aircraft that was being powered for an alien species named Muklan. Hopefully I pronounced that right, but this alien species is most notable for the character Fin Fang Foom, which is basically a species of alien dragons that do have the ability to shapeshift. They're the creators of the 10 rings and have used that technology to power their planet. So that's more than likely what they're trying to set up here, is that Fin Fang Foom and their people have discovered where the 10 rings are located and are now going to be coming after them to get them back. And just to stretch a little bit, that could also explain why Bruce Banner was included into this post-credit scene, because there was a comic run where Fin Fang Foom fought the Hulk. And while Bruce Banner in the MCU isn't going anywhere except his own solo movie, because if you haven't heard, there's a rights issue with Universal and Marvel where Marvel can make a solo Hulk movie, but they have to share the profits with Universal, who would distribute the movie. So the loophole to get around that is that they have to include the Hulk in team-up movies, that way they don't have to split the profits, and that's why we see the Hulk show up in movies like Thor Ragnarok and the Avengers. Well, I don't think they want to include Hulk in another Thor movie because they already did that, and it doesn't seem like we're going to get another Avenger movie for a long time. The next time that Hulk could be showing up could be in Shang-Chi 2, helping him fight Fin Fang Foom, just like he did in the comics. You guys are gonna have to give me your theories on that. But moving on to the end credits scene, which wasn't all that hype, but it was still kind of cool. We see that Shang-Chi's sister is now the leader of the 10 rings. Not only that, but she's letting women be part of the 10 rings. Oh, the 10 ring goes woke? Where's the YouTube videos at of people mad about that? Also kind of hinting that she might be a villain to her brother in the future. Now this might throw a lot of people off or make them feel weird, but it makes sense because the whole movie, the sister mentions how she built the golden dagger as an empire because her father wouldn't let her be part of his empire. But I also bet you it's because she's jealous and upset that Shang-Chi is the owner of the 10 rings when she feels like she should be the one to hold them now on. I think that's going to be the big conflict between the brother and sister going on in future movies, is them fighting over the 10 rings, and the ironic part is, I bet you that Shang-Chi actually does not want the rings. From his characteristics and personality that we got to see, I don't think Shang-Chi has an interest in remaining immortal, so I highly doubt he's going to be wearing the rings at all times, or even keep them around him, because he doesn't want to live for as long as possible like his father was doing, but at the same time, he knows the power those rings hold, and is not just going to want to hand them off to whoever, including his sister. He's going to feel that responsibility of, I have these rings, I'll use them when necessary, like fighting Fin Fang Foom or any big major threats, but I think they will remain as a last resort for Shang-Chi, and he busts them out whenever he's outmatched. Which I could definitely see his sister thinking that's a waste, that's him using them incorrectly, that he should be wearing them at all times, and if he's not going to wear them at all times, then hand them over to me because I'm the leader of the 10 rings now. But that is everything I just caught from Shang-Chi. I'm curious to hear from you guys. What did you think about the movie? Did you like this one, or anything's in here that you caught that I might have missed? Be sure to leave me all your thoughts and theories down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Film Review. As always, I'm Chris. Take care.